welcome to Let's Talk About Dogs. Today we're here with Jerry Beaugez with Offleash K9 Training, Baton Rouge. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm great, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I see you brought a lovely little friend over there with you.
I did. That's Callie. That's our 2-year-old Dutch Shepherd.
Awesome. She's beautiful. So Jerry, tell me a little bit about Offleash K9.
Offleash K9 Training is based out of Virginia. We have locations across the country. We specialize in behavior modification as well as the obedience side of the training. We want to make certain that all of the people that come to us have a better understanding of what their dogs are doing and what they need to be doing, and recognizing some of the signs, and give them a little help where they need to.
What would you say off the top of your head is the biggest behavior modification complaint?
Really, it's people just want the dogs to listen. I mean, plain and simple. I just want them to sit when I tell them to sit, and I want them to mind what they're being told to do. So
in general, what exactly do you have a board and train program, so what do you teach the dogs, kids? Yeah, see, mine are kids. What do you teach the dogs basically whenever they come and stay with you? During the board and train, we teach them everything from the very basics: sit, down, place, come to sit. We teach them heeling, loose leash heeling and off leash heeling. Okay. We show them their door manners to where they're not bolting through the doors and running over people, and how to get into vehicles, loading into vehicles, you name it, we work with them. Yeah. So once the dog goes back to the owners, what should the owners follow up with? What do they have to do? We recommend that they continue working with them on a daily basis, and we tell them incorporate all the commands into your daily lives. Mm-hmm. Make certain that you're spending at least an hour a day, and if you work all those little things throughout the day, you're going to spend way more than an hour. Mm-hmm. But just, be there with the dogs and work with them. I see you have a little black box with you. You use the e-collar in training. Correct. There's big hype. There's some that are totally against it. There's some that are, okay, I can handle that, but okay. Tell me about that real quick. You use that, and the e-collar, it is strictly a tool to get the dogs to pay attention. Mm-hmm. And it's unlike the old myth of the shock collars. Mm-hmm. This is not like it. Mm-hmm. This is the equivalent of a TENS unit, like a chiropractor would use for your back. Right. You're able to dial up the remote from 1 all the way up to 100 being high to get the dog's attention, and all you're going to do is basically, hey, I need you to listen to me. Okay. Once the dog listens, that's all that we're asking them. Okay. So what are the benefits of using the e-collar over, say, prong collar or flat collar, martingale? The distance. Your dog can be off leash. She can be out here in this park that we're at, running around, and if you need her to come back, all you have to do is tap the button, as we call it. It's going to vibrate. There's 3 different commands, or 3 different settings, I should say. There's a tap, which is just going to vibrate. Then there's a momentary stimulation or a continuous stimulation. So you're just getting their attention at a distance. Okay. I've had people ask me, how do you work with a deaf dog? Deaf dogs can't hear you give the commands, or if it's not looking at you. Right. Tell me how that would again work. With the e-collar, you have that vibrate. They're going to feel it. So it's the same thing like your cell phone. If your cell phone was sitting here and it was vibrating, you would understand it. The dog understands that vibrate. Hey, I need to listen and understand what mom or dad's telling me to do. Okay, cool. Now, do the collars normally stay on the dogs 24/7, or when would you recommend they're on and off? Anytime that the dog is awake and supervised by you, we recommend that you put it on, especially in the early stages, because that way they're getting used to understanding that it's not just a bad thing. It is something good, to where they can have that freedom. So if the dog is awake and you're able to be around them, put it on them. At nighttime, take it off. Definitely don't leave it on 24 hours, no ma'am. Have you ever had a dog just simply refuse to put one on or work with one? There's some that at first where, they're a little apprehensive. They may have never had a collar on, period. They may have never had to work with a leash. So you work it in slow. You do try to get them familiar with what it is, and then from there they understand. It's going to give them more freedom, and that's what they want. And freedom's a big thing, because I know working with dogs on leash, you have them running around you. you get tangled up in the leash, and the dog's unsure. It only has a limited space that it can run, so even those commands are, how do I do this? I don't have room to do this.
Right.
So where you had a 20-foot lead to teach recall, now you have, how far do the collars go?
This particular collar has a half-mile range.
Half-mile. Is that the most that you can get, or are there?
You can get a half-mile, a 3/4 mile, or a full mile range.
Full mile. That would be, yeah, I can't yell that loud.
Yeah, you know, and if they're getting beyond that, we've got some other issues that we need to be working on. So
I was gonna say, I have a loud mouth, and I don't usually have a problem with my dogs hearing me, but I think that would be pretty challenging.
Right.
So what is the biggest message that you want to give the public about the use of e-collars, about just anything in general, about Offleash K9?
Well, the biggest thing that we want to make certain everyone understands is the e-collars will not hurt the dogs. The dogs are very happy dogs when they're using it. They're very happy dogs when they're not using it. But the big thing that the owners need to worry about, or not worry about, but focus on, is staying consistent with what they're trying to show the dog. If you teach the dog a command and mom says it's okay for you to do this, but dad says no, you have to have the consistency, and it makes the training a whole lot easier. It makes the dog learn a whole lot quicker.
So basically for everyone in the family to be on the same page.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well that makes sense. You have anything else? I'm drawing a blank.
No, you know, Offleash K9 Training, you know, like I said, we do have, we have locations across the entire country. We have one that we're based here out of Baton Rouge. We have another out of the New Orleans area. But Have Dog will travel, you know, so.
But you do other things beside the board and train that we mentioned.
Correct. We also offer private sessions where we teach. We have a 4-session basic. It's 4 1-hour sessions, and then we also excuse me, we also have an 8-session which gets into some more of the advanced commands, and those are offered you know, at all of our locations as well. Okay.
And I think you guys do like K9 Good Citizen.
We do.
And therapy dog training.
We get them to the point to where they're able to be tested for this.
To be tested.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, you have a lot going on there.
We do, and it's very fun. It's very enjoyable, and I love seeing the results.
I bet you get to meet a lot of different breeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
You prefer big dogs or little dogs?
You know, I love them all. The big dogs can be easier to work with, but I love working with all. I
had to throw that in there because I love them all too, but you know what? Please bring me your big dogs. I have a lot of colleagues that like the little ones, so you're not going to be neglected, but yeah, I like the big dogs. Well, Jerry, it was fun.
Thank you.
So I'm glad you chose to do this with us, and Jerry's actually going to stick around because we've asked him to help us talk about the e-collar a little bit more, just to kind of show exactly what it is. And I've also asked him to work with my Corinne over there, which you guys kind of seen a glimpse of her, and we just might get to meet Callie. So stick around. We'll be right back with Let's Talk About Dogs. Welcome back to the training session. Today we have Corinne and Callie, and of course, Jerry. Thanks for sticking around.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
All right, let's see what these babies can do. Y'all want to go play first?
Again, freedom.
Freedom.
Come here, girls. Callie, come.
Corinne, come.
Come.
Sit. Hey, Corinne, sit.
Callie.
Corinne. Corinne.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Good girl. And of course, you always praise your dog whenever they do good. So, let's see. Corinne, come here. Sit. See how far they'll stay.
All right.
If they'll stay here.
Sit.
Sit. I think that would be good. So how far would you say that is?
Easily a good 50 to 100 feet.
Okay.
Down.
Corinne likes listening to Uncle Jerry still.
When they're taught, they're good. They're good. They know what they need to do, and they truly want to please and want to do what their owners want. So.
Well, they're happy when they make you happy. All right. Break. Come on.
Good girls.
Come on, Rin.
Good girls. Good girl.
Come on. Corinne, heel. Corinne, heel. Come here, heel. Corinne, heel. Come on, heel. Good girl. Heel.
Sit.
Heel. Good girl.
Good girl. Kelly.
All right, sit. Come on. Sit. So
Very good.
they have a mind of their own. They really do.
People always ask, is it going to change my dog? Absolutely not. It's going to make them more happy, if anything.
Corinne, come.
They get to run around. They get to know where that they have the freedoms.
Come here.
But the disposition, if they were a lovable dog before, they're going to be even more lovable now.
I was recently asked a question too. Does your dog have the right to say no in training?
No. No. In training, no. But there are times to where you kind of let them bend a little bit. But,
Well, and I have a kind of a different philosophy too. See, y'all heard me call her Rin Rin.
Mm-hmm.
Rin Rin, she don't have to do what I say. It's kind of a choice. I'm giving you a choice. Like, come see Rin Rin, what you want? Come here, Rin Rin. She doesn't have to do that. I don't care if she comes and sees me or goes to her daddy or what she does. Now, when I say, Corinne, come.
she knows the difference.
She knows the difference.
Good deal.
And when she's really misbehaving, she gets the full Corinne Martha.
Both names.
And it's the same thing for the other one at home. In fact, I had to laugh at him the other day because I got so mad at him, he wouldn't shut up for something. And it was like 11:30 at night, and I just walked outside. I didn't even say Dalton. I didn't even say Dalton Bernard. It was Bernard! He just dropped.
He did what he needed to do. He knew Mom meant business.
He come running back in the house like, oops.
Yeah.
Corinne, come. Come. All right, Corinne, sit. Well, that's a down. That's a down. All right, well, any suggestions, ideas?
Just keep working with them. Consistency, that's the big thing.
Now, when do you need to push the buttons and which one? How do you know which ones to push and when?
When is truly going to be an owner's decision.
Okay.
Typically, what I would suggest is you give them that opportunity to, maybe I didn't hear Mom say something, to where when you first give the command. But after that, second time, you're pushing the limits. Third time, definitely. Start with the vibrate like we talked about. Get their attention back, because there's a lot of distractions over here. You got great food over there.
Food truck over there.
Yeah, you got the food over there. You got kids playing all over the place. You got noises. A train just passed. So there's a lot of distractions. So give them that opportunity to where maybe they didn't hear, but after that, get them back on track.
And see, that brings up another point because I've heard trainers say, oh no, my dog has to obey first time instantly. And here's my thoughts. If you're driving down the road with your spouse and you say turn left here and they're not focused, they're kind of daydreaming, you're like, no, turn left, turn left, turn. You got to repeat it to humans. Why shouldn't you repeat it for your dog?
Absolutely correct.
And another thing I heard, dogs don't know English. Is you got to teach them what the word is. Corinne, come. Come. Corinne, come. Perfect example. Come here. Sit. Good girl. Kinda.
She said, but I'm doing good,
She is doing good. So, repeating commands, that's okay. Us humans don't get it the first time every time.
That's right.
Nicknames, perfectly okay. I'm Rin Rin. That's when they know they're spoiled and loved. So,
What you think, Callie?
thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Let's Talk About Dogs. Joining us in front of the camera today is my husband and our producer, Ben Balser. Hey, honey.
Hey, honey.
Today we're going to talk about excessive barking. It's a question that I get asked frequently, and one of the things that I find myself repeating over and over again is that barking is as natural to your dog as wagging its tail. You're not going to train it out of your dog completely. I find that there's several things that you can do, maintenance or preventative wise, to begin with. If you leave your house on a daily basis and you know that you live in an area that's active with birds and squirrels or whatnot, and your dog goes ballistic looking out the window barking at them, close your window blinds.
Duh.
I mean, that could be step one.
Yeah. But what about if somebody, like, really, that's not always, it can be easier said than done sometimes, or, you know, just...
Well, there's other alternatives. One of the things we do, and actually we do this for separation anxiety too. Instead of feeding your dog breakfast that morning, the night before you can soak the food in broth or even water and get it all nice and mushy, and stuff some Kong products or hollow bones with it and stick it in the freezer.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
And then that way when you leave, you can give your dog his breakfast in the Kongs and the bones, and you have a couple of hours there that the dog's worrying that item to get his breakfast and not barking at.
You know, we've done that. I can tell you, it actually works. They sit there and they'll spend hours on those things. They're wonderful. I love the Kong people. Mm-hmm. They're our friends.
So that's a couple of preventative measures. Another thing is socialization. You can get, if you can get your neighborhood involved, or even your adult children, grandchildren, that would be great. Have somebody walk in front of your window alongside the street, you know, sidewalk, whatever, and sit there with your dog and teach them shh, 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 shh. But when that person actually steps onto your property, then you can start barking with your dog to teach your dog that this is a time to bark. It's on my property.
They make dogs, when trained that way, best doorbells in the world, man.
And the doorbell is a big cue, because if you want to teach your dog to bark on command or to bark when somebody rings the doorbell, you can have someone stationed at your doorbell, tell your dog to speak or alert, bark, whatever term you want to use, and that person rings the doorbell, and you and your dog go. Burr, 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 burr.
How do you make you just tell the dog speak? Dogs aren't just going to say, "Hey, dog, bark." He's not going to just bark.
Well, and that's a good point, because when the dog is barking, you can always say, "Good speak, good bark, good wolf."
Oh.
Good whatever, put your term to it then while he's doing it. And yeah, he might do the little head thing and look at you like you're stupid.
So go through the training of speak on command and hush on command.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to demonstrate that here in a minute. We're going to call Dalton outside.
Oh,
and
Dalton's the king of that, yes.
Yeah, for a trainer, I can't get Corinne to speak on command for nothing. She doesn't want to speak.
She's the quiet type.
She is the quiet type, and the only time she really speaks is if someone pulls in the yard or Dalton has her toy.
That is true.
Other than that, she will not speak on command no matter how hard I try. She'll do every other trick she knows but speak. But one of the key training point to this one is training speaking or speak and shush. That's the terms that we use, is speak and shush. You can use wolf and shush or speak and be quiet, whatever term you want to use. Just pick one and stick with it. Dalton knows speak and he knows shush. So that's what we're going to demonstrate here in just a moment.
And that should be true for all commands. Always be consistent with
Always be consistent with your
3 or 4 words. And just like you don't want 3 or 4 people giving the dog the same command at the same time, don't use 3 or 4 different words for the same command. Be consistent. You'll get real consistent results. And what about just basic obedience training? Does that help them calm down and not bark as much sometimes?
Basic obedience helps, because once you get that bond with your dog, you're able to give your dog commands and it'll follow. One step above the basic obedience, especially for the problem behaviors, is the K9 Good Citizen, which is sponsored through AKC. I teach it. I have an AKC training program, and I have a tester that tests my clients after we train them, and if they pass the test, they get a CGC certification, and you can choose a certificate, a ribbon, or a tag for the collar.
A lot of apartment managers require that?
There are. A lot of apartment managers feel much better renting to someone with a dog if they know that dog has had not only basic but even above and beyond basic, and it's not that costly. It takes a few weeks, but you get your dog registered with AKC as a K9 Good Citizen, and again, there's levels above and beyond that, but that's a good starter.
Oh, that's a great starter.
It teaches that your dog knows how to behave in public. It's a good citizen. It's a good dog.
Can we get that for our teenage boys?
I wish.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to pull Dalton out here in just a second, and we're going to go over some of the shush and speak and shush commands. So be right back.